Hello, everybody. Yes, we're back. GeekD's podcast is back online. A few days late, but we have reasons for that because we might actually be doing a bit of shuffling around of the show. I am Stephen Hodson, otherwise known as the Cranky Canuck, and I'm joined, as always, by my good friend Paul O'Flaherty, who is also known pretty well everywhere as Paul O'Flaherty on Twitter. I think that pretty well covers your.
Yeah, I'm not known as Paul O'Flaherty on Twitter. I'm Paul O'Flaherty on Twitter, but I'm Paul O'Flaherty everywhere, except for O'Flaherty Paul, which I am on Xbox Live.
You're O'Flaherty Paul on Xbox. That's like Dizzy Disaster. He's Dizzy Disaster everywhere, but on Twitter he's Disaster Dizzy because someone else has that first name and they've only used it for one tweet.
I hate that. I hate when you get a Twitter account or you want to register a Twitter account and it's already taken and it's some idiot that like did a tweet back in 2009 and the account is still there and not used and it's like, give it to me. I mean, really, doesn't Twitter need to sort of
do a cleanup?
Yeah, do a cleanup. Just sort of say, look, if you have done less than, if it has been, 18 plus months since you last tweeted, then your account, you get a notification that your account is about to be suspended. And let's say if 2 years go by without a single tweet happening on the account, then the account should just be revoked and put back into the pool for somebody else to get that username, because it's only fair, really. Even 2 years is slightly too long. But yeah, as you were saying, we're a few days late, and that's mostly my fault, because work has become ultra busy, and I have started a new business, which is just getting off the ground, and I have another baby coming on the way, so I'm spending a lot of time trying to mind.
You don't look like it.
Don't look like what?
You're having another baby.
No, I'm not having another baby. My wife's having another baby. If I was having another baby, I would be rich. Can you imagine the money I would get being the first man to give birth?
Here's something, maybe my age is showing here. But whenever, you have a couple that's having going to have a baby, they say, we're having a baby.
Oh, we're not having a baby at all. She's having a baby.
Yeah. Like, fuck off, dude. You're not pregnant. Like, quit the bullshit.
Oh, dude, I don't know. I mean, I seem to be one of these people who's really susceptible to, like, sympathy pregnant stuff, I get more cravings than my wife. I put on more weight than my wife does during the pregnancies. I'm just...
And she loses it quicker afterwards.
Tender nipples and all that sort of stuff.
Well, that could be interesting. That could be interesting. Okay, all righty. I don't know where... We got a lot of stuff here. First off, okay.
We got a lot of stuff here, but a lot of the stuff is like the same story like 5 times over.
Yeah, but here's the thing. Google Glass. Rip, done, toast.
No, not rip, done, toast. Google Glass... Explorer existing product done by good night to the experiment. But I think Google Glass is exactly like so many other Google products. Let's bring something out to shake the market up and see what happens. Because look, you've got Samsung now coming out with an improved version of Google Glass for only $400 or something like that. You've got a lot of players now entering the glass field. And there's even talks that there's going to be it's not going to be called Google Glass, but that there's another similar Google Glass product coming out, because there was a report on the BBC that the CEO of Nest, who Google recently bought, said he was excited about working with the Glass team on something else. This whole idea of augmented reality integrated devices is not going anywhere.
Oh no!
It's only going to get worse. Google Glass was the first notable public iteration. Don't get me wrong; people have been experimenting with this stuff for decades, including a guy who famously walked around with like an entire PC strapped on his back, right, just to have it. This stuff isn't going anywhere. I mean, half of us are doing wearables now. Even I've got the whole fucking smartwatch thing going. I mean, It's not
Which
going.
one is that?
This is the Strive Fusion.
Who is made by who? By what?
Made by Strive.
Okay. Android compatible?
It is Android, but you have to be 4.4 or above on Android to get it. I picked this one up actually off Stack Social because they had a deal on it. It does the whole lot, you know, it monitors all your bits and pieces. You get your phone notifications on it, whatever else you want to get on it as well. Runs off an app on Android. It also works iOS. And you know, once the app is on, you can basically get notifications from anything that's on your thing. But I'm trying to lose some of that pregnancy weight, so I want to be monitoring what's going on with my body, which is why I have this for sleep monitoring and that sort of stuff. But there was a deal on Stack Social, so I managed to pick this up for $45 with 3 straps. But typically these are $99 with just 1 strap. The thing is interchangeable. You can like take it out and make it look different and all that sort of stuff. It's not the most advanced smartwatch out there, but at the price point, it does everything I want without being too intrusive. You know?
See, the thing is, I never really liked the whole idea of Google Glass. I thought it was stupid. Wearables are not stupid. I just don't think that technology really is at the level where it's actually not feasible, because it's feasible. You know, the whole idea of like your smartwatch or you know, the Fitbit ones, or you know,
well, look at the new Intel chips that they just came out. They were demonstrating them recently for making for basically doing smart wearables. I mean, they've got the whole SoC built into something that fits in less. They demonstrated it inside a button. Right?
Okay.
And basically Intel is taking the approach of, look, these people have great ideas for this kind of stuff, but what's really hard to manufacture is the hardware. So let's put basically everything we can onto a really, 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 really tiny chip, and then just let you know, developers come up with ideas. Rather than having to spec hardware and that sort of crap. So we're going to see an explosion in this sort of stuff. As for Google Glass, it's a little bit... The problem with Google Glass is that it looked kind of intrusive because you had, you know, this thing sitting on the side of your head. But the whole concept behind Google Glass is actually somewhere that we're going to end up going regardless. You know, we're going to have augmented reality. We're going to have, I mean, a friend of mine, Abe Harper, he just got back from CES there the other day, and he was showing me pictures. He was inside like the new BMW, and the new BMW has like a HUDs up display. He got to drive the thing, right? It's got a HUD display, right? And it highlights, like outlines the cars in front of you. So like, with like, sort of a yellow line around the car, like highlighted, so you can actually see the car. You can't miss the damn thing, right? Yeah. So we're going that way. We're going in the direction of, you know, you have your glasses on or your contacts in, and you're going to be constantly getting information about objects around you based on your user setting. Okay, I would assume
the contacts I can see. I honestly can see that as being a viable avenue of a wearable.
But they're not going to happen until we have implantable wearables, I think.
Yeah.
Because
I think
it's going to take... I mean, we can't... They can't shrink the technology right now to get it all into a set of glasses that look normal. Whereas you could at least have the contacts be the screens, but you'd still need... You see, I want one thing, right?
Yeah.
I want one thing. I would love a pair of contacts that let me do everything that I do on my cell phone.
Yep. But see, here's a problem I have, especially with all this, you know, modern, you know, whether it be your smartphones or your tablets or your wearables.
I'm going to be really rude and pour myself a cup of coffee while you were talking.
Go right ahead. The biggest holdback of all of this, and the one where we need the biggest innovations, is power source. Because how often do we now have to, you know, like you have to plug in your you know, your smartphone. You have to plug, you know, at least for, you know, like it would be different if your recharge was like maybe a flash of like a minute or 2 minutes.
Yeah.
But you know, or you know, you could go a whole day and most of the evening of good, solid use of your smartphone and not worry about running out of juice.
No, I get where you're going, but I also think it's a design issue, right? Here's the problem, right? We have wireless charging technology, right? That's not a problem. Okay. We have the ability to make like laptop batteries that last for 10 or 11 hours, charge to 90% capacity in 1 hour. Okay. And technology is moving on, but we need to move away from like alkaline cells and the whole thing that we're using. We need to probably move hydrogen fuel cells or something. Okay. But the problem is this, right? People are fucking idiots, right? People are egotistic idiots. And if you're wondering why that is a technology problem in terms of batteries and charging, I'm going to explain it for you. Everybody is obsessed about getting the next phone that is lighter, thinner. So just by that, just in that respect at all, every time we make it thinner, we reduce the amount of battery that we can shove in there, right? And that's cool, right? You want a nice thin phone, that's fine. So you get a nice thin phone. This isn't particularly thin. This is an Nexus 4, but it's thin enough, right? Yeah. So you take a Nexus 4, and then what do we do with it? We stick great big ass fucking protection covers on it, right? And we completely eliminate the design factor on our phones down to nothing but being able to view the screen.
Yep.
Why? If that's what you're going to do, why don't we just make phones that are already protected and give them a lot more space for batteries? And not just give them space for batteries, but why isn't the back of my phone a solar cell?
Yeah.
So when I'm sitting in the office, I just put my phone down beside me, big bloody window there, and the thing is getting a trickle charge.
Well, the same could be said. You could do with wireless charging.
But you could do wireless charging too. But what about when I'm out and about? Why aren't I getting a trickle charge off a solar cell? There's lots of ways to solve the problem without changing the battery technology. Now, obviously, we want to change the battery technology too. But in the meantime, there's lots of measures we can take. But we just have to get over the damn vanity factor of, oh my God, the iPhone 7 is 0.15 of a millimeter fucking thinner. You know what? I would prefer it to be 2 millimeters thicker if it meant I got an extra 2 hours of battery life because they shoved more battery in there.
Yeah, I agree with you.
You know?
Well, the thing is, we're at 2015. We're finally going to get our self-lacing Nikes.
I'm just waiting for the first fucking lawsuit where these things clamp so hard that they fucking chop somebody's ankle off right the way through. Boom! You know? Because that was the first thing that I thought when I ever saw Back to the Future 2. Because, I think, if I remember correctly, he's just after... has he gone across the pond and there's the big jaw? Anyway, I don't know. He laces up the boots when he's soaking wet, right? And obviously the air fans come on in the clothes and dry them. And the boots just go and close. And I'm like, dude, that's a lawsuit waiting to happen. Some kid is going to put their foot in them and they're going to close too tight. And next thing you know, they're going to be fucking amputating because the foot died of blood loss or something. But no. Would I like to see these things? Yes. But really, if they're going to look like that picture, then, when was Back to the Future 2? 80s? 90s? Early 90s? I can't remember when. Well, they called and they want their design of what they thought 2015 would be like back.
Yes.
Because, no.
No, it kind of... Okay, let's move forward to the world of the Minority Report. And...
Again, this brings, you see, we should have actually went from glass to that, because it's all augmented reality, man.
Yeah, because apparently Microsoft wants to work with stores to use Kinect to recognize shoppers.
Okay.
I don't know if I want that. I really don't.
I see that as being, okay, let's be honest, first off, right? Before we discuss invasions of privacy, let's be aware that you're already on camera when you walk in there.
Yes.
They already know who you are from your credit card or your debit card.
And they all
a lot of places already employ where they ping your cell phone to collect information about who's coming in and to track customers as they move around the store to prevent theft. And a lot of places also use similar technology then to push a text message to you with, welcome to our store. Such and such is on sale today, right? So it's not as if they don't know who you are when you're in the store, even if you're just browsing and you don't talk to anybody, which is a pet peeve of mine, because, oh my God, American salespeople just piss off and leave me alone when I'm in a store, all right? When I just say I'm browsing, that just means I'm browsing. You don't have to come back to me every 3.5 minutes. Are you okay? Are you okay? Are you okay? No, I'm robbing the place. Fuck off. I can't do it because you're distracting me. But this whole idea of Kinect, there's no problem with it if it's Kinect doing facial recognition, because really that's no different to just running facial recognition software on your security camera footage, right? It might,
but if it's connected to Microsoft.
Now that's where I have a problem, because I don't necessarily want Microsoft knowing, and I'm sure you don't want Microsoft knowing, when you visit the local porn store, right?
Yeah. Well, here's the thing. I think what it is so that they can, they can pull or be able to speak to you, Cortana wise, say hi, Steve, because they recognize who you are.
Okay. Now that's going to get really intrusive. Because when I walk into a store, I don't want other people knowing who I am. If I walk into a store and a big thing comes up, goes, "Hey, Paul, you bought 27 condoms here last week. Here's something else you should buy, a butt dildo." I don't want other people knowing. Not even what I purchase. I don't want them knowing that I'm in the damn store.
And really, the only people I want greeting me like that are the stores that I go to regularly, and I know the people, and I've gotten to be, either casually friendly with them, or they become friends. Like,
and if I haven't had my cup of coffee in the morning, I don't even want them greeting me.
Yeah,
leave me alone. But no, I think the whole Minority Report thing is, if it goes that way, stores would love it, but people would find it way too intrusive. I mean, don't get me wrong. The next generation of people who grow up with it would be the norm. But for me, that would be like way too intrusive.
I think even the Facebook generation would be reticent about accepting this kind of technology.
Yeah. Now, if it was more that they recognize you from your Microsoft account, and therefore you don't have to register with the store, but you immediately get discounts on your phone or something, so that it's not a public intrusion as much as it is a notification on your phone, and that you can opt out of these notifications to begin with. Or you can select, I only want these notifications when I'm in, Best Buy, or you know what I mean?
Yeah. Or you can make the purchase through your Microsoft account.
But can't you do that anyway with like Tap to Pay, right? Does Microsoft have a payment service like that yet?
Well, you can buy any for example, you can buy software on the Windows Store with your Microsoft account.
Yeah, I know, but I'm just thinking, why would I want to use my Windows account in another store? Because I'm still going to have to go through a step of something, right?
Yeah.
I mean, that's what I don't get about this whole goddamn Apple Pay or tap to pay services. It's still faster to swipe my damn card.
Yeah.
Because right now, tap to pay, all right. I'll take out my phone and I'll lock it. I'll tap to pay. I'll verify on my phone that I want to pay it. Where I can just go, doop, 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 done.
And the other thing is, too, is I found is if you have, let's say, your debit card with 2 accounts connected to it, like a checking and a savings, you have no money in your checking account, right? But you have your money in your savings account. The tap to pay automatically goes to the first account, which is your checking.
Mm-hmm.
And you get refused. So you got to go through the whole process and swipe the card anyway.
I don't know. Well, I have a debit card and multiple accounts on my bank account, but I think my debit card is for that account only because that's the way I like it. Because then I can't spend money that's not in that account, and that's always a good thing.
But before we get into some more fun stuff, and I know this is gonna get you going while we're still on technology and privacy and all this good stuff. David Cameron, running for re-election in the UK, put his fucking foot in his mouth so far down it's coming out his ass when he said that if any application that provides communication in Britain must be required to provide a backdoor that the government can access, or they will be made illegal. Now,
I don't have enough expletives in enough languages to describe what I think about this Egypt right now. I don't, right? So yeah, he famously came out, we must be able to read everything.
And granted, he did this right after the Charlie Hebdo thing happened.
Because he's a fucking power-grabbing retard, right? Like most politicians. So, he doesn't... Security 101, right? If you provide a backdoor for you to get in, you provide a backdoor for everybody else to get in too. Ding!
Yeah.
Right? That right there should be enough to seal the fucking argument. Nor mind anything about censorship, about people's right to free speech, people's freedom of speech, the fact that you should be able to say whatever the fuck you want. Doesn't matter if anybody else agrees with you. You should at least be able to say it.
Without fear of being
reprisal. Yeah. Right? And this brings us kind of back to the whole, because you just mentioned it, Charlie Hebdo. We've talked about this on other podcasts a couple of times, right? Yep. Daniel brought it up there recently on Nothing Serious podcast about how after the whole Charlie Hebdo and all these world leaders meeting in solidarity about I can't give out you on this podcast for that going off because it's not my podcast. But if this was my podcast, I'd be bitch slapping you. Anyway, meeting in solidarity and expressing their solidarity, and we've got to protect free speech and the whole lot, right? And it was a big to do about Obama not going. And I said to Daniel that I think Obama not going was actually a bigger statement about the freedom of speech than meeting with all these bloody leaders in solidarity. Because Cameron was one of these leaders, right? They're already referring to what he's doing in England as the great firewall of England, the great firewall of Cameron, right? He's already making people that can sign up with telecoms if they want to be able to access adult material, right? And it's batting crazy, right? And then you have the French government. French government are even fucking worse, right?
Yeah.
After standing for the whole Charlie Hebdo thing. They then arrest people for what they say online within days of it, right? People who spoke out against everybody who was supporting Charlie Hebdo, right? Freedom of speech doesn't work like that. Freedom of speech is not, you're free to say whatever you want as long as you don't offend me, or as long as I like it. Freedom of speech means you're free to say whatever the fuck you want, whenever the fuck you want, about whatever the fuck you want. If I don't like it, well then I can walk away. I cannot listen. I can change the channel. I can close the book. I can turn off the podcast. I can not listen to you. That's what freedom of speech means. It doesn't mean, oh, everybody's free to say what they want, but I don't like what you say, so we're going to lock you up for it. All right? And there's been a number of arrests in France since the French stood out there with his arms in arms with everybody else talking about the freedom of speech. And even worse, of course, that whole picture was staged because those world leaders were not at the march. They staged that picture in a closed-off street. So that's another story. So Cameron, so to get back to the whole Cameron thing, he's an asshat and nobody should listen to him ever. Thank you.
While you mentioned Obama, he came out this week saying that he wants Congress to enact stronger laws against hacking. You know what I got to say about that? I tell you what, instead of going after the fucking hackers, go after the companies that develop software that is security messes. Go after the companies that allow breaches to happen and don't report them promptly to their consumer customers. Go after, the
look, here's what we do. Here's what you do, right? You have to go after the hackers. Don't get me wrong, right? You have to go after hackers that do things with criminal intent.
Damage.
Right?
Yes,
with criminal intent, you have to, right? But, for example, I was dealing with a client this morning, okay? And we were putting in process a medical client, right? And we were putting in place a process for the transfer of medical records on site, right? From their network to a secured laptop from insurance providers who come in to check records to make sure the payments are actually, that there's no bogus shit going on, right? Now, as part of that, our responsibility is not just to make sure that the data gets transferred securely, at which point it becomes their responsibility, but we also have to make sure that there's no potential breaches in that sort of data transfer, right? So not just does the network have to be locked down, et cetera, but let's say, for example, just as example, if they decided to transfer the data by USB, say, for example, okay? Yeah. So that USB key first has to be scanned and cleared, and make sure it's 100% clean. No viruses, no Trojans, no malware, no nothing on it, right? It has to be scanned and it has to be empty, right? Before it gets hooked up to the host computer, which is cleaned and looked after in-house, right? So it's got all the security stuff going. Stuff is transferred, okay? Then it goes to the host computer where it is transferred, and then it becomes their responsibility. But when on return of that USB key then needs to be hooked into a computer, and it needs to be professionally wiped so that there's no way to recover the data from it. And that includes multiple levels of not just wiping, but rewriting with dummy, randomly generated data many times. Okay? And that is the norm for medical businesses that are HIPAA compliant. Right?
Yep.
These other big businesses are dealing with a lot of patient data. And yes, or not patient data, but customer data.
Financial data.
And yes, there are laws surrounding that. But they need to be enforced. If the company I was working for this morning, if that US key had gone missing, and somebody turned up with that data, right? There would have been a $50,000, I think it's 50. It's either $20,000 or $50,000 fine per patient.
Wow.
On that drive, right? Not for the incident, per patient, right? Now, if who was it recently got hacked? Big grocery, big grocery.
Pick a name.
I'm just trying to think of the big grocery store, not Walmart, not Publix. Target. When the Target hack happened, right? Why aren't they being held accountable the same way a medical practice is, right? Why aren't they being fined $20,000 per person breached?
Yep.
Right? You'd say, oh my God, that would put them out of business. Well, okay, so it puts one company out of business. Fine. That vacuum will be very quickly filled by other companies and startups. Okay? Because trust me, if Target went out of business tomorrow because of something like that, all the employees would be safe because another business would come in and just buy them up before they even close down. Right?
Yeah.
But my point is that they're not treated the same way, even though outside of medical data, a lot of the information is exactly the same.
Yep.
Now,
it's your financial data.
If somebody got fined huge like that, and I don't mean slap on the wrist fine. I mean, you hear big fines in the news. Oh, they got fined $20 million. And I'm like, okay, so that's what? 10 minutes of operating revenue? I mean, you know what I mean? That's nothing, right? It has to make a real impact.
Plus, they don't declare the breach until what? Months later.
Yeah. So here's how we do it, right? The breach has to be declared immediately. Yep. Okay? No. Suspected breach has to be declared immediately, whether or not it happened, so that customers can look after themselves. Okay? Then there needs to be a fine of significant money amount for every hour or day that passes that this declaration hasn't been made.
Yeah.
Okay?
Well, here's a question.
And then if it actually did happen, they need to be fined on the information that goes on. And what happens is, once you start fining huge, everybody else suddenly decides, oh wait, we better actually spend money on our infrastructure because now it's a priority.
Here's another thing too. What about if the breach is found to be the result of a weakness in the security of the software being used? Should the company that developed that software be held accountable as well?
No, you can't do that. You cannot do that. You cannot do that. And here's the reason why. If you've been around the tech world, you know, as well as I do, that nothing is 100% secure. And there's no way to make anything 100% secure. Because a breach in your software could be caused by somebody setting up an overflow in a piece of hardware that you never even thought of.
Yeah.
Which they then use to access something else, which they then use to access something else, and all of a sudden they've got backdoor access to your program. But it's true, a completely... There's no way you could have predicted it.
Yeah.
And you cannot lock down a computer system 100%. You cannot hold security vendors accountable for that, you know?
Yeah.
But what you
okay. It was just, a generalized question.
But
okay,
what you can hold people accountable for, and it's funny because they do it all the time with medical practices, right?
Yeah.
You can hold them accountable for not securely locking down their network, for not having up-to-date security software, for not having up-to-date OSs, for not, you know what I mean, for not taking the necessary precautions, or you get fined. And these aren't just like minimal precautions, right?
Yeah.
But can you go after the security vendors? No, never. But if it was a lapse in my network, and it was a lapse because I was either A, incompetent, or B, just ignored it, then find the living crap out of them.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. All right, let's get on.
Or just have an AI protect your network.
Yeah, yeah.
Make Elon Musk happy.
That, I gotta admit, this guy is just like so Tony Stark. It's just getting ridiculous.
I read somewhere a long time back that at least part of the new Tony Stark is actually based on him.
Yeah, yeah. But he's donated $10 million,
which is that's fiddle money to him.
Yeah, I know. But $10 million to the organization that is trying to make sure that any AI development does not move into the Skynet territory.
Okay, here is the problem with that, right? If you're developing an intelligence, and generally in most of these intelligences, most of these intelligences are being developed for a very, very specific task. So they've got a very limited set of parameters, and they've got a very limited amount of access to other data that doesn't really, that doesn't have an effect on the outside, right? And they've also got a limited capacity for learning, in the sense that, it doesn't matter how smart you are, how well developed your AI is. If it's running on 2 gigs of RAM and it's only got a 40 gig hard drive of space and it's got no network access, it's not going anywhere. You know what I mean? It can only go so far, right? Yeah. But the problem comes when you're developing AIs that are
all-encompassing
AIs that are for semi-autonomous to autonomous robots that are like home help systems that are supposed to, for example, learn from their users how to perform tasks around the home, and then have enough deductive reasoning to figure out when I'm supposed to perform such stuff and under what circumstances. Right. Yeah. That I think personally that's enough variables to sort of allow for exponential growth. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It has to learn. It has to figure out when these things are suitable to be done, and that is enough variables for exponential growth. When there's no way to stop it. There's no way to stop it if you give it the resources. Because if an intelligence truly becomes self-aware, right, then what's happening is you're dealing with somebody, forget whatever their mental age is, right, but you're dealing with an intelligence that has the capability of thinking at and performing digital actions at literally the speed of thought.
Yeah.
The only way to prevent that doing harm is to pull the damn plug. Because any programmatic safeguard that you put in place,
it will route around.
It will route around as soon as it becomes aware.
Yeah.
Of the existence of the safeguard, because it is self-aware and it would have hardware access at the most basic level. And you know what I mean? For forever we've had, the laws of robotics. Were the Asimov's laws of robotics? Yep. That they can't do harm. They can't do harm to a human, etc., 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 except in protection of that human. And the funny thing is that there's, even within the 3 laws of robotics, there's already an exception.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, the 3rd law is an exception.
The 3rd law is an exception that requires the robot to make a conscious decision.
Yeah.
And the problem about a consciousness making a decision is that very often very often two consciences will not agree on what the correct outcome is.
Yeah. Well, it's
once it has intelligence, what's to stop it having a bad day?
Yeah, really.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. While we're on this kind of AI thing, I linked you a post that I wrote the other day highlighting a sci-fi short film called Henry.
I love that film, but this is going to be an interesting discussion, I think.
Yeah, my first reaction was...
Oh, by the way, folks, go watch it first, right?
Yeah.
Let's give you a bit of background. So, Henry is a ship, basically, it's a research...
An artificial intelligence.
It's a research ship. Henry, and I'm doing this in air quotes, Henry is the artificial intelligence that runs the ship. Okay? And obviously everybody on the ship dies, and Henry... becomes self-aware enough that Henry builds himself a body and goes for a walk around the ship and tries to think about his creators and ultimately ends up dying in a supernova. Spoilers. But it's kind of a heart-wrenching story, but I think it's more RoboCop than it is AI.
Here's the thing that as I was watching it, that sort of flashed across my mind. Could an AI go insane? And if it could, would it know it's gone insane?
The answer to that is first off, I've got two parts to this answer, right?
Okay.
One, I do not think that Henry was an AI. That is a misnomer in this story. Okay?
All right. Okay.
Because Henry was more like RoboCop. They clearly showed that Henry was a brain connected to a computer system. Okay?
All right.
So,
yeah.
Henry was...
At one time a human.
Henry was an augmented intelligence. Okay?
Yes.
He was not an artificial intelligence, he was an augmented intelligence. Which
now
is a very different premise. Now, as for the insanity thing...
Hang on.
Yeah.
That really... I hadn't clicked into this at first, and if you guys go and watch, because the link will be in, or I'll post a link to the movie. I couldn't connect part of his memory trip that he went on until you just made that point. Now I understand where those memories that he was experiencing were coming from.
Yeah, that's why I said
a whole new level.
That's why I said he's more RoboCop than artificial intelligence, because it's the same thing. RoboCop, human brain, augmented parts, superhuman abilities, basically. But still, the human brain kept surfacing memories that were not part of his program. Can an AI go insane? I would guess that the answer probably has to be yes, but for not the same reasons as people go insane. Hardware failure, software corruption, et cetera, could lead to aberrant behavior that the AI would see as being normal within the bounds of its programming. But to us would be absolutely batshit crazy insane.
Yeah.
Would the AI be aware of it? Probably no more than most insane people are aware that they're insane. You know what I mean? If you haven't been told by a doctor that you're insane, you don't really know that you're insane. It's just you and your reality, right?
Yeah. See, when I first came across it, was a result of another film that this writer-director had done that I also posted back last week. This guy has a big love for the 70s and 80s science fiction. Do you know who that woman was in Henry?
What's her name? Margot
Kidder.
From Superman? Yeah, yes. She was Lois Lane.
And
that's in the original Superman movie, kids.
Yeah. And the voice and later the face of Henry is Keir Delay
from Kubrick's 2001: A Space Odyssey.
Exactly. Like this,
he was Dave.
Yeah. I absolutely loved Henry. I think it was right now it is probably, it's got to be my top 5 favorite sci-fi short films. It really does.
Yeah, it's really, really well executed.
Now, I will say some of the models used in it are a little on the shaky side, like that little robot going along and picking up the parts.
Yeah,
that gripper, that was just a little too shaky for me.
Yeah, there was one or two things that I kind of found a little bit out of it, because it obviously had a table for constructing along with mechanical arms that was computer controlled. Yeah. So I couldn't figure out, for example, why Henry ended up with one eye above the other. Yeah. And considering he was taking optics from around the ship that were essentially his optics while he was the ship, why the eyes were displaying in 2 different colors and at 2 different heights. And I also couldn't figure out why he had only 1 foot and a stump on the other side when all he had to do was cut another piece of metal off another chair.
I think that was to highlight the, I don't know,
it was probably to highlight the fact that he wasn't entirely mechanical.
Yeah.
That he was flawed.
Yeah.
Because if he was an actual AI, it would have been built to precision, but he wasn't. He was an augmented intelligence.
Flawed. Yeah, he was flawed.
It was human, basically.
Yeah. But yeah, no, I definitely this is probably going to be one of my highly recommended short films. It really is. It is one of the best I've seen. I love it. It's great.
Well, you do realize that it was made entirely by an artificial intelligence that is trying to lull us into a false sense of security about what artificial intelligence is actually like by portraying itself as being flawed and having, and developing compassion.
2 stories dealing with less AI and more flawed humans.
We're all actually feckin' flawed humans.
Fox is doing one, and Sci-Fi is doing the other. The Sci-Fi, the show is they're turning Greenland into a giant prison. And let me get the a little bit more. The plot for the 51st State is being written by Craig Borton, the Oscar-nominated co-writer of Dallas Buyers Club, is being produced by the super prolific Peter Chernin and Catherine Pope with Chernin Entertainment. The synopsis is, as 51st State unfolds, the United States, confronting a prison population stretched to the limit, purchases Greenland and converts it into a frontier prison colony with male and female convicts incarcerated together. Promised conditional freedom, the inmates are driven to the edge of their humanity when that promise is broken, along with others. Struggling to seize control and exact revenge, reluctant heroes emerge, but what is it exactly they're fighting for?
So this show's gonna suck.
You think so?
Yeah. I think it's absolutely gonna suck. And the reason it's gonna suck is, one, because it's on Sci-Fi.
Well, now, come on. Dude, let's be fair. Sci-Fi has been doing a pretty good reboot of returning to its roots.
No. It's not because... It's going to suck because it's on Sci-Fi, because it's pretty much network TV. And if you're going to do something about a prison population with no guards, there's going to be nasty shit. There's going to be violence. There's going to be rape. There's going to be murder. There's going to be... It's going to be the worst of humanity. Right? Because that's about the only way it would be any good fucking viewing, to be honest. And quite frankly, I'm tired of these shows about, oh, well, really, I was a bad guy, but now I'm taking the moral high ground and being the best of the bad guys, because you gotta love me because I'm the lovable bad guy, but I'm the hero, anti-hero. I'm fucking sick of that shit, man. Also, we've been down this road. This story has been done at least twice before, but not usually from the perspective of inside the prison. Kurt Russell in Escape from New York and Escape from LA. It was exactly the same bloody premise, except he was he was the anti-hero. He was a criminal, but he was being put in there to actually do a job for the outside. But it's the same bloody story. The anti-hero goes in and boom, boom, boom.
And which they tried to do a reboot recently. That flunked. But now Fox has come to an agreement with John Carpenter. He's on board, and they are going to be doing a remake.
Who is going to play Snake Plissken?
I don't know. I cannot see anybody but Snake Plissken.
Kurt Russell is Snake Plissken.
Yeah, he is.
That's kind of...
Like every movie that has tried to copy that formula has always been, you're no Snake Plissken.
Gummy.
Like that one that they did in the Out in Space, where the big prison and the prison break, and they had to send in the guy to save the president's daughter who'd gone up there. I can't remember the name. It was a fun movie. I enjoyed it, but again, that was like, you're no Snake Plissken.
Yeah. I mean, you wouldn't mind, like, but Escape from LA was... Which one came first? Escape from New York or Escape from LA? I think Escape from LA came first, didn't it?
No, Escape from New York was first.
But the second one was essentially just a bloody remake. I mean, it was the same bloody movie.
Yeah.
But no, this is... I don't know. I'm not excited about a remake of Escape. And I'm not excited about this TV series. I just... Do you know what? Do you know what I watched on TED the other day? Not
on what?
Show notes. On TED the other day.
Yeah.
In Norway, they have a new take on reality shows. It's probably not new because it's a couple of years old, because this TED Talk was already probably 2 years old when I saw it. But they're like running on TV like a boat cruise or a train ride in real time.
Okay.
So you've got like 4 or 5 cameras set up on the train, and it just goes through down the tracks. When it goes under tunnels, instead of showing black screen, they show historical information about the place, and the rest of the time it's just varying views out the cameras with maybe a little bit of text come up at the bottom telling you what you're looking at. Like 7-hour train ride.
Wow.
They've done this for train rides. They've done it for cruises that last days going up the coast of the country. And this is on their national broadcaster. And it's been some of the highest rated TV they've ever shown.
Wow. Huh.
Which makes me think, do we need to sort of rethink here the concept of TV and entertainment? Because, you know, what you have here is you have people seeing, basically just looking out the window, seeing nature, right? Looking out the window, seeing nature, seeing real people, seeing parts of their country, the whole lot, blah, blah, blah. Whereas, I mean, the whole concept of even reality TV here isn't reality at all in any way, shape, or form. People are pre-selected, they're pre-screened, they're told what to say, they're told what to do. It's scripted shit. I mean, even when you look at these, Sarah knows somebody who's involved in one of these TV shows, you know, where they come in and they help you find a house and buy it.
Yeah.
The people had to have their house selected, chosen, and everything done before the TV show even came in. Everything was fake.
Yeah.
I'm like,
well, see, here's the thing. I think our concept of entertainment is changing. And I say this because, like, you know, and I've talked about before, I'm involved a lot with Twitch, both as a consumer of what they're doing and as now a broadcaster there. Right? Twitch is, next to YouTube, the largest producer of watched live content on the web.
But
I think
I have a caveat on that.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. All right.
All right. The Twitch consumer is not mainstream.
No, I'm not saying that it is. But the thing is, Twitch itself, okay, has branched out into gaming talk shows. All right, which is what I'm going to be doing. They are branching out into music. They are looking at different avenues to bring in, I guess, more of that mainstream.
Well, they have to, because they've got to make...
No, wait. Not the mainstream we know right now. The mainstream that is coming.
Yeah, but they have to so they can make money.
Well, yeah. But the idea, okay, people, you say, well, what do you do for entertainment? Well, I sit around and I watch, Twitch. What the fuck is Twitch? It's people playing games online, and you can watch and you can partake in the conversation around it. And they're going like, what's so fun about that? And then next thing you know, they're in there and they're watching, and they suddenly realize that, yeah, this can be enjoyable. So,
I agree with you. No, I mean, I'm not putting it down in any way, shape, or form. Don't get me wrong. I'm just saying that's while it's a big niche, that's a niche, and it shall always be a niche. People watching other people doing things in real time will always kind of be a niche.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? But I do think that storytelling is a very, very important part of the human experience. Okay? But I think we owe it to ourselves, and we owe it to our children and future generations to ask, why are we telling a story? Is this content being produced? Are we producing reality TV because we have some loftier goal, some important story to tell? Or just because we're making money? We hope to make money by putting out the next season of Big Brother 667 to appeal to the lowest common denominator. And if you watch Big Brother, you really are the lowest fucking common denominator of intelligence.
Get a grip on your life, people, really.
To the lowest common denominator in order to follow your capitalist gains agenda. I think we owe it to ourselves to reevaluate what entertainment is.
Yes.
There's nothing wrong with a good TV show that tells a story that has a moral. I'm not trying to be all fucking, ooh, granny fanny pants and morally correct here. I mean, your story can still have tits and ass and murder and zombies and whatnot, but you're telling a story, a bigger story, right? I think we owe it to ourselves to actually tell stories.
Yes.
Use the medium for what it is, to tell stories. And if we can broaden our intellectual horizons at the same time, let's do so. The problem I've always had with American TV in general, which is probably why when great shows come out of like the UK, they need to remake them for over here.
Yeah.
Right?
They got to dumb them down.
Exactly. They have to be dumbed down for the lowest common denominator because they fear they will not make money. Right?
They also, but it's not just that. I got the perfect example. They have to Americanize it. All right? They cannot just accept it as being a great show. And a perfect example of that is Broadchurch. One of the best BBC cop shows I've seen in a long time, next to The Fall. What do? They bring it to the U.S. with David Tennant.
With the same actor, give an American accent.
Same exact show. Almost scene for scene, but set in the U.S. What the fuck? Why?
And it didn't do half as well.
No.
Because they Americanized it.
Whereas
it would do so much better if they just brought it over.
Yeah, like
But
I know a lot of people that actually watched the British version over top of instead of the American one, and these are Americans because they loved it. And I know we're running long, so we're gonna end this right now.
yeah,
and
I'm
we're
getting
gonna
messed.
finish off.
The one thing I do want to say before we finish up about this whole dumbing down thing, right? So what people don't understand is this: it's a self-perpetuating cyclic problem. Okay, if you lower the audience's expectation of what good entertainment is, you're going to get a lower quality of audience. But the next audience that comes along is going to take that as standard. And it's just going to keep getting dumber and dumber and dumber. And eventually we're going to end up in idiocracy where, TV is 24 hours a day, somebody getting kicked in the balls.
Yeah.
Where the number one rated movie is called Ass, and all it is an ass on the screen. All right? You do it to yourself, people. Not that listeners to Geek Dimensions would ever do that, because obviously we have a much higher class of listener here. That is not sarcasm, that is truth.
But on that note, folks, I know he's doing this from work, so I know he's probably got meetings. We're going to call this episode to close. We've gone a little long. I appreciate you for sticking with us. Like I said, show times are going to be in a state of flux a little bit for the next little while because we got to try and rework times. I kind of like this Friday morning thing.
We can try to do it. Maybe I can come into work a little earlier or something.
Yeah, and I can get up a little earlier and get some more coffee into me.
Yeah.
On that note, folks, thank you very much. Thank you, Paul.
My pleasure.
I think this has been a great show, and hopefully you will too, everybody. And we will see you next week. But in the meantime, remember one thing: keep it geek.